Perfect.
Okay, good morning. Who wants to tell me something they're grateful for? Some good news. Come on, all you guys are on mute now.
I'm working on mailing out handwritten letters to my database.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, what are they going to say?
Kind of just connecting with them and saying something like I've seen on Facebook or something about their life, and asking them if they know anyone or just to think of me when they have any real estate needs.
Beautiful. I would even maybe change that word needs to questions, right?
Ooh, I like that better.
Right, because you don't necessarily only want them to call you when they want to do a transaction, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the average person does a transaction every 9 to 10 years, right? You want to be the one that they call when they have a question. Hey, my toilet's
Okay.
not working. I don't make any real estate decisions without talking to Brittany, so I guess I better talk to Brittany. Hey, Brittany, my toilet's not working. What do I do? Right?
Okay. Oh, I like that. Thank you.
Right? Because anything they want to talk about with respect to real estate, what's going on in the neighborhood, what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with, the data, the metrics, is it a buyer's market, seller's market? Should I buy now? Should I invest? Should I refinance? Who's going to fix this hole in my roof? All those kind of questions. You want to be their go-to person, right? So anytime, I think one of the things that real estate agents uh, aren't taking advantage of is being the resource for all real estate information. And a lot of times their language is around just give me a transaction, right? And again, there's just people don't do enough transactions over the course of their lifetime for that to be the only time you speak with them, right? Great job. Great job, though.
Thank you.
How many of those are you sending out, by the way?
So I have like a list of 1,000 people because I have my LuLaRoe business.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of condensed that into like 125 of my more close knit. So I'm writing the handwritten letters to the 125 right now.
Cool. If I was you, I'm about to give you a lot of work, but
Okay.
I think it's going to be profitable. If I was you, I would call them within a day or two of when you expect them to receive the note.
Okay.
Right? Because your database for your other business is an absolute gold mine. Absolute gold
Okay.
mine. You probably never
Okay.
have to call another stranger again, honestly. Right? You just need to develop the relationships with those people and make sure they don't just see you for their clothing questions. They see you for their real estate questions. Make sense?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, Donna and I had a really nice conversation earlier today, and I'm hopeful, Donna, that you can give me, or give everyone, I should say, a little glimpse into what you did yesterday and a few of your results. And then there was one other topic I wanted you to share about your morning affirmation. Can you share that with us?
Yep. What do you want me to start with? The morning affirmation or
Yeah.
my activities?
Let's
Okay,
start
so
with the morning affirmation.
My morning affirmation is from the book, The 7 Levels of Communication, and I wrote it down. Since starting bold, I decided that this is something that I want to put in my journal every day. So it's called the Rainmaker's Affirmation, and it goes like this. Each and every day, someone somewhere in my city needs my services. My job today is to find that person. And so that kind of motivates me every day to go out and do my lead gen. And I've found that I enjoy open houses and I enjoy door knocking. And so I've been reaching out to agents every week to set up an open house for the weekend. And I'm starting to door knock around those open houses. This week, it's a neighborhood that's really close to me. And I started on Wednesday earlier in the afternoon, and I didn't have very much success. So I decided that yesterday I would go around dinner time. So last night I walked from 5 to 6:30, and I had good two-way conversations with 7 people, seven homes. I had some other interactions, but they were a lot shorter. But it was I felt it was a good number for the amount of doors that I knocked on. And so of those 7, 3 of them, we had really good real estate conversations. One woman definitely wants to sell her home. She's not quite ready yet. She thinks it's going to be the end of summer, early fall, because she still wants to do a couple of upgrades. She took me on a tour of her property and her in-law suite in the back of her home. She has a built-in pool, an in-law suite, a heated gazebo with electricity and all that. So we had a very good conversation, and I shared with her about knock. She's really interested in that. She also wants to know about the home that I'm holding open, what it ends up selling for. She's coming to the open house on Sunday, and there's a house across the street from that sold last year, and she wants information on that. And I shared with her how, the information that you see on Zillow doesn't always tell the whole story, and that there may have been closing costs paid by the seller or some other concessions, and I could give her that information. So she was really interested in that, and she wants to be set up on an auto email for the neighborhood, so that when there's any activity in the neighborhood, like something goes active or the status changes to under contract or pending or it closes, that she's aware of it, because she's very, very interested in that activity, to help her as she gets ready to, sell her home. She's really interested in that. Then I had a conversation with another gentleman whose daughter just sold her townhome in Dunwoody, and she might be interested in the house that I'm holding open. So they're going to come to the open house on Sunday. And then there was another gentleman who works for the post office, and he's been in his home for almost 30 years. And he was very interested in the house that I'm holding open, what happens with it because of the price that it's listed at. And he wants information on knock. We talked about knock, and he took a bunch of my cards. He asked me for my cards so he could put them on the table in the break room at his job. So we had a lot of good conversation, and that was an hour and a half, and I felt really good about it.
All right, let me summarize that. You spent an hour and a half. You have met 2 people that could potentially be sellers and buyers, 1 person who just sold a place and still needs a place. You met a guy who's willing to put your cards out on the counter, which he would not have offered if he didn't think you were a good person, right? And that you were caring and patient and a hard worker and a person of integrity and all that, right? And you're probably going to meet a couple more on Sunday to further those conversations. And you did all that. 3 people to the pipeline, 3 people to the database, or 7 people to the database, at least 3 to the pipeline, actually. You did all that in an hour and a half?
Yeah. And I'm going to send them all handwritten notes to kind of continue the relationship. And then I also built a relationship with the agent. This is an agent in our office who I'd never met before. I never even heard of him before. He wasn't really familiar on what an open house could do and what I was going to do to market the home through this marketing the open house. And so I feel like I've developed a few relationships.
You crushed it.
I
Okay,
think so.
Donna, that is so amazing. So amazing. And
Thank you,
and the
Bolt.
thing that you haven't actually expressed, which I think we all probably realize, but it's probably worthwhile to say it, is that you have just a new level of confidence also. Like we talked at Bold yesterday about getting 1% better every day, right? I'm going to venture to say you went a little bit beyond 1%, but sometimes that is 1% more confidence, right?
Yeah.
You know that if you go out and knock doors, you will have conversations that will likely lead to business in the future, and that you're probably not going to get hurt doing it.
Yep.
Right?
So number one,
no injuries, right?
No injuries. I didn't really feel like doing it, but I did it anyway. And then after I spoke with the woman who told me, hey, I really am I'm getting ready to sell my house. I want to sell my house. I need to upgrade. So I want to buy another bigger house. I asked her if she was already working with someone. She said no. So, you know,
Right.
I
So
could
that's
have
a
left after, I could have left after that, but I looked at the rest of the street and it was a cul-de-sac and there were several more homes, and I committed to finishing that end of the street, just finishing that entire cul-de-sac and coming back up the other side to the open house. I could have turned around at that point because that was a success after talking to her, but
Yeah, by
then
the
I
way,
had
she
the
has a $500,000 home that she wants to get a bigger home, or a more impressive, I shouldn't say more
Right.
impressive, but more expensive home, right?
yeah,
I
she
mean,
wants,
that's over $1 million worth of transactions right there,
yeah.
man.
And had I stopped, I wouldn't have spoken to those other people. So it was a good hour and a half for me. And I got my steps in.
There you go.
So, because I feel like I haven't had a lot of energy lately, and this is gonna help.
You guys, it's this is a big deal, right? If you want a what's the exact wording of this quote? If you want a better business, you first need to have a different business. You've got to do something different, and then it will grow into a bigger and better business. Great job, Donna. Man, that is awesome.
It
All right,
takes
class
work.
dismissed. Just kidding. Okay. Who's in Bold that wants to share something they learned yesterday? Any ahas from Bold? Any additional thoughts that they picked up on? Maybe they're putting into their business right away.
Hey, Bill, I'll
Well,
share.
Oh, this is beautiful. Markia, why don't you start?
Yeah, during bowl we made care calls just to somebody who came to mind, and I called one of the people who I had a transaction with last year that I actually ended up selling his mother a home, and I have his aunt under contract, and I just kind of told him how grateful I was for him, and he was really shocked by the call, and was happy to hear from me. Which we go out all the time, but it was just a different perspective. So that was pretty cool.
Nice work. Ebony, the current leader of the growth group for our June contest. Why don't you share what you know? Markia, she's got you by a point, just so you know.
1 point. Uh-oh.
All right, Ebony, tell us
I
what you
Coming
learned.
for you, Ebony.
That's fine. I'm open to the competition. What I liked, it was 2 things about Bowl. One, as far as with the lead genning, what stood out to me was the business to business. And I've heard this before, like when I first started, like almost a year ago, but it was yesterday when it clicked that could kind of be your sauce. So if that's something that you're comfortable with and you don't like door knocking or you don't like cold calling, you can do that business to business. And that kind of takes out I know sometimes I get, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like if I feel that I'm not adding any value, I'm hesitant on making calls or just moving forward. But with the business to business, that's a great source of lead gen because it's a win-win and you're providing something to them, they're providing something to you. So that was like a amazing light bulb that kind of just went off. And then secondly, I remember a lot of people saying that they took Bold 2, 3, 4, and 10 times, and I didn't understand it. This is the second time that I'm taking it, and I feel that I'm getting so much more out of it than the first time because my ears are open and I'm in a place to whereas I'm receiving all that Bold is giving us, and it's kind of like a transformation, and I'm just literally waiting to see where all of us end up at the end of this. So
Yeah.
I'm loving the time, I'm loving the space, and I just want to keep my enthusiasm because I want my business to be great.
Yeah. And I tell you, like some of the quote places that these people would end up, it's not going to be like on the top down report, so to speak. It might not be in terms of how many deals did you get out of this. It's how are you different than you were before you started, right? How are you thinking differently? How are your actions differently, right? I know of people, honestly, that have gone to Bold and then left real estate, right? They got inspired and then they realized that real estate wasn't the way they wanted to impact the world. and they went and impacted the world a different way. And that's okay also, right? Bold is about working on your brain. Make sense? Okay, I want to share one idea that I learned in Bold, which is the difference between an amateur agent and a professional agent. Did anyone remember hearing that, the wording around that?
Yeah, they said that amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong.
Great job, Ebony.
Yeah, I was about to say, so like I'm
Perfect.
assuming, maybe this is a bad assumption, but I'm assuming that you're not staring at your Bold notes right this second.
No,
right?
I'm not. I'm walking around and talking. I'm literally making circles in the
I know,
house
because
and
in the
talking.
roughly 100 private calls we've had in the last year, you've never been sitting at your desk. Not once, right? So I assumed you didn't have your notebook in front of you, but I love the fact that you memorized that.
Yeah, that was verbatim. Good job, Ebony.
Yeah. So what
It
does that
stood
mean to you,
out. I
Ebony?
like that.
What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. It's just like your practice when you're doing it's being purposeful, not being entrepreneurial. It's being purposeful with what it is that you're doing. You're not doing this for the moment. This is for the lifetime, like to where it becomes second nature, like breathing. It's routine. And I think that routine and consistency, regardless of what you do in life, it's going to take you a long way.
Yeah, that's right. I heard another one that is there anyone else that wants to comment on the difference between what they?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I think when we're new agents, we are so scared that we want to make sure we know how to do everything perfectly and we know all the information before we actually go out and try to implement something. And I think you know, it's don't worry about being perfect. Just go out there and try, and you're going to learn along the way. And every time you try something, that's practice, and
Right,
you're
you're
just
making
getting
progress.
better.
Making
Yeah,
progress.
you're making progress.
Oh, Don, I want you to say that one more time. One more time, please.
About not being afraid of not knowing everything and not
Yeah.
being perfect and just going out there and trying, because it's like the old saying, practice makes perfect. You just keep doing it live and, you know, eventually you're gonna just keep progressing and get better and better. Don't be afraid and stay at your desk and behind your computer, because you know, even the very seasoned agents are still learning. You know, they're out there working and they're learning as they go.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I could probably name 20 agents in Bold right now that have been to Bold over 10 times. You think they know how to the care call script? Of course they do. They're just hearing it differently at a different time, right? Okay, let me bring up two more points. One is accountability is not punitive; it is awareness. Okay, so like reporting your numbers, for example, is not, I'm not asking you to announce your failures or you're not hitting your goal. I'm asking you to take stock of what happened. What is the score? Am I on track? Am I winning? Right? So it's not a, you know, everyone knows that if you haven't reported your numbers, you didn't get kicked out of the group or you didn't get embarrassed publicly or anything, right? I've never called anyone out, hey, so-and-so, you did not report your numbers, do it now or you're leaving. It's just an awareness. How am I doing? Right? It's like if you've got it, if something hurts, you go to the doctor and they check your vitals, right? Because they're trying to figure out, they're trying to get aware, they're trying to figure out how they help you. This is how you know how to get help. Okay, the other quote I want to mention is a good script for Candace. I'm coming to you in 1 second. A good script for ending phone calls that I've kind of had an awareness about this for a long time, but I've never heard it actually said like this, which is, in the meantime, is there anything else I can do to help you? Right? In the meantime, is there anything else I can do to help you? We are essentially, it's kind of funny saying it this way, but we are essentially really well-paid concierge. Okay? I don't care if you need a new orthodontist recommendation. Just call me. I'll help you. You follow me? Some of these people are new to town, right? They may not know where the good dentists are or where the good dry cleaners are and these kind of things. In the meantime, is there anything else I can do to help you? Make sense? Candace, did you have something you wanted to add a second ago?
Yeah, I just wanted to add back to the reporting, because I know there's a lot of resistance around it unless you're, rocking and rolling. And then still it's one more thing to do. But I just wanted to say, and I'm going to be real transparent here. When I built the team to the top 10 at back in 17 years ago, I didn't do a profit and loss statement, and I did not track my numbers. And what I ended up understanding when I finally sat down and did it is that I wasn't making money. I was spending more money than I was making. And so tracking your numbers is kind of the precursor to that profit and loss. And when I think of the tracking your numbers, I think of it as like, so I'm going to use the example of if you're sending out letters and you spend $200 a month and you don't have a listing from it, you might not be farming the right neighborhoods. You might not be writing the right letter. So it's time to switch things up, but you don't know that unless you look back over a track record. So that's part of the reason why tracking your numbers is so important, and understanding whether what you're doing is actually being profitable or not over the long run. So that was just what I wanted to say.
I think that's very well said. And the thought that was coming to my mind was this idea of, like, let's say we owned a bakery. Do you think it would be important to know how much flour to buy and salt to buy and sugar to buy and blueberries to buy and tea to buy and all that stuff? Right? If you went into the bakery and they were like, hey, we don't have any croissants today because we ran out of salt, you'd be like, what kind of operation is this? Right? You would say, oh my gosh, this is probably just an amateur business owner, right? That's the difference between an amateur business owner and a professional business owner. Y'all see that connection? What's up? You want to say hi?
Yeah, just write happy birthday.
Look who's here.
Just write happy birthday. Hello, guys.
Hi, Melody.
Hi,
How are
Mel.
you? Happy Friday.
All right, give all these wonderful people some advice.
Lead gen. That's what I learned.
You see everything, don't you?
I see it all. Lead gen. You guys got this.
All right.
You
What
guys
do you want me to do with this?
just sign it.
Okay.
Come on, sign it. Let's go.
Oh, you mean I'm in the middle of a
I know
meeting.
you're in the middle of the meeting. I'm talking.
We'll
I want
wait.
to write a heartfelt message.
I'm
and
talking to them
everything.
now. No.
All right, you talk to them.
So, what you got planned for the weekend? How many houses you going to show this weekend?
I got an open house Sunday.
All right, yeah. Anybody else? Open houses? Come on. I know you have an open house.
I've got a showing tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, see? All right.
If you don't have an open house, your job is to go get an open house.
Yeah.
Right.
Clean this up, man.
I,
All right, guys. All right, I'm
Man,
gonna get ready to
You're
build.
tough. Oh my
Melody,
gosh.
for me.
Okay, we're back. She's great, isn't she?
Yeah.
Okay. Before I go into the buyer stuff, I just want to mention one thing. I'm going to send you guys a pretty little invitation here shortly, but I want you to mark your calendars for July the 7th. July the 7th. That is a Wednesday, not this upcoming Wednesday, but a week from this upcoming Wednesday. We are going to have a in-person productivity coaching party, if you will. We're still fine-tuning the details, but it's going to be from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night on July the 7th, Wednesday, July the 7th. We'll do it at the Market Center. It will include dinner, and we're going to encourage you to bring your spouse or your biggest cheerleader, right? Bring somebody who is who wants you to be successful, right? Who wants to kind of get immersed in what we're experiencing here. Okay, so a friend, a family member, a spouse, whoever. That'll be July 7th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, everyone cool with that? Okay. Talk to me, guys, about the buyer presentation from yesterday. What questions did you have? What observations did you have? What clarity would you like? Walk me through what you heard or what you learned. Let's kind of go through some. Let's pick it apart a tiny bit, and then maybe if we have time, we'll let somebody kind of do a part of it live. Does anyone have any thoughts, observations, complaints? Come on, y'all. Hey, you gotta have a buyer presentation to get paid. Come on.
I guess I'm worried that if they ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, what should I say to them
Great.
without sounding like I don't understand what's going on? Like, I want them to think I'm very like knowledgeable about everything.
That's a great question. So what would be an example of that, just out of curiosity?
I don't know, something about the current market or something, a statistic that I might not know.
Okay. I got to tell you, chances are they're not going to ask that stuff. But you
Can I input on that, Bill?
Yeah, please.
Most of the time when I do buyer consultations, I'm pretty much leading and just more than likely telling them that I'm educating them. And so, I mean, some people have been through the process, but most people don't explain the whole buying process over again. So it's probably something that they heard for the first time, and more than likely a question that you probably wouldn't know because you'll control the conversation pretty much.
Right. And if we follow kind of that pattern that thank you, Markia. If we follow that pattern that I illustrated yesterday, right? Kind of the thank you, how do we make this an ideal experience for you? Let's talk a little bit about the overall market. Let's talk a little bit about the process. Let's talk a little bit about how I help and like the search mechanisms, right? How I protect you, right? That through a discussion of the contingencies and the buyer brokerage agreement, and then you ask for the order. They already know that you're going to protect them. They already have a good deal of the data that is relevant to them, right? Because you've showed them a couple Structmaster slides or something of that nature, right? So I think at the end of the day, here's what Gary Keller says a professional is. A professional knows what they know what they do not know, and they're not afraid to admit it, right? So if somebody were to ask you a question and you say, I think I know the answer to that, but I'm going to jot that down right now, and I'm going to go do some research and confirm that that's the most up-to-date answer, and that's give you the most thorough explanation possible. Okay. Because here's the deal, like, I'm trying to remember what the exact scenario was, but like somebody asked me a question 2 days ago and I didn't even know the answer to it. I've been in the business 16 years, right? We've done hundreds of transactions, right? You're always going to be learning. You're always going to be learning. So go in there thinking to yourself, hey, if I don't know the answer, I'm just going to say I'm not positive of the answer. Give me a second to look it up or to ask my coach or to ask my team. And I'm going to make sure that I deliver the most appropriate answer for you, right? Now, there are certain things, for example, that you should have an awareness around, right? Like, let me give you an example. Let's say you're working with a buyer who wants to buy a condo in Buckhead. Okay. Now, you're not expected to know everything about every unit and every building, but you should probably have a rough idea of which buildings kind of make the skyline, so to speak, right? So if you're driving by, like, if you're showing homes in Buckhead and you don't know where Lenox Mall is, you probably should do a little research on that, right? If there's 3 buildings that kind of stand out from all the others on the skyline, you should probably know what those are, right? So you should have an awareness around the general market that you are working. Does that make sense? Because if somebody's like, hey, what's that building? Are there any condos available in there that I could possibly buy? And you're like, I don't really know what that building is. They're like, okay. And then an hour later, they're like, hey, what's that building? And they're like, and you're like, I don't really know that one. They're like, okay, we're done. I'm going to go find an agent who does. You see what I'm saying? So I say all that to say you need to constantly and intentionally be learning, but you're never going to know it all. And you probably will get stumped. And every once in a while, you might even get embarrassed. And that's okay. Because in the meantime, you're going to have lots of sales. Candace, what was that?
Yeah, and I was going to say a lot of what Bill just said is preparation, and we don't have always a lot of time to do preparation now for our buyers, but if you do have the time and opportunity, get the seller's property disclosure and the community association disclosure before you go show the house. So when they ask you how old is the furnace, you have a resource to be able to answer that. And I also, in days past, and this will happen again, I like to print out an itinerary for my buyers because nowadays they're not in the same car typically. So I like to print out an itinerary. But as far as what Bill was saying, if you're going to be showing condos, you can find a whole lot about the condo market by looking at other agents' websites, and also just by looking up the name of the condo building. And then you'll know, then when you walk into the condo, you can say, well, this condo, and you can call the concierge too, if there's a concierge. And then you can walk into the condo and say, well, this condo has a pool on the 7th floor that faces, for instance, like the Charles. If you drive down Peachtree and Piedmont, you can see the swimming pool has a glass edge, so it looks like the pool's floating in the air, which is a really cool feature of it. So you can speak to those things just by doing a little bit of internet searching. It's not like it takes years and years and years of expertise to get there.
Good point. Exactly. Does that answer your question, Brittany?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's not a sign of weakness by admitting you don't know something. It's a sign of professionalism.
One other thing, because math is not my strong suit, when people ask me questions about mortgages, I always say, you know what? I'm going to put you in touch with a great lender who can answer all those questions really specifically and with a lot of expertise. And so I resource out to another person. So I don't have to know every single thing. I do look up what the interest rate is that day because people always ask that. But beyond that, I don't get into the nitty gritty of mortgages.
Perfect. Thank you. Who else has a question? Anything they heard or didn't hear that they want clarity on? What else was on your mind after listening to the presentation yesterday? Anyone?
Well, I love the 1% better each day. That's kind of it's not a full step, it's a pivot, right? It's a pivot towards success. It's just turning yourself, and gradually each time you pivot, eventually you're going to be completely turned, right? So I love that. I thought identifying the ways that we can be 1% better, whether it's a little bit more focus, whether it's getting a little more clarity around our calendar, whether it's deciding to do something we hadn't done before, or practicing scripts so that we master those. Just getting 1% better is so doable for everybody.
Did you make up that part about pivoting and then turning completely around?
I did.
I was going to say, I don't think I heard that yesterday, and that's brilliant.
Thank you. Oh, I'll take that.
Okay, so let me make sure I heard that right. When you continue to pivot, eventually when you're pivoting, you become a whole new person. Is that right? That's awesome. I never heard that before.
Thanks.
See, I'm learning too, and I'm not afraid to admit that I didn't know something, right?
I'll pay you later, Bill.
No, that's good. I'll pay you. I should pay you for that. Okay. Any other questions on the buyer presentation? Any other thoughts? Does anyone want to role play it for a couple minutes? Come on, you guys. Come on now. Should I ask everyone to turn on their video to prove that you're not just like asleep? Oh, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Okay. Should we end? Do you want me to say a few more things about the buyer presentation? What do you guys want to hear right now? Thank you, Caroline. Caroline and Michael, up and at it. Love it. Okay. Does anyone else want to say anything about the buyer presentation, or do you have any questions whatsoever about anything? Guys are making this is painful here.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
If when you have a buyer presentation, you can meet at a neutral place like Starbucks. And I think Bill said this, try not to have your buyer consultation in the home. There are, and I also, when you go see a home, sometimes people have those nanny cams hidden. So be very careful. I always caution my buyers I always say, let's be really neutral in our comments about the home. Let's consider everything, but let's discuss it when we get outside, because sometimes there are hidden ears listening, and we don't want to offend anybody. So I think that's just something to be aware of. Not everybody does that, but there are some people who do.
We
So
actually haven't talked about that in a while. That is a great point, Candace. Thank you. I read a statistic one time that said that over 90% of homes have some form of surveillance. 90%. Okay.
Bill, you know, I learned yesterday, piggybacking off of that, I was in a class with Paige when she was doing her seller's presentation, and she said that one of the things that she does when she's listening for somebody is she will have like an Alexa playing, or what is it, like a baby monitor, because she wants her clients to hear the natural feedback of what they think of her house, because it, you know, of what they think of her seller's house, because it's more authentic than coming from her. So you're absolutely right with that. I just thought of that when you guys were talking about that.
Boy, that's the facts, right? That's what's happening nowadays. So meanwhile, if I'm showing Ebony a home, let's say, and we get up in one of the kids' rooms and we think we're safe because we're out of the, you know, we're away from the Alexa or whatever, and we're like, hey, should we go 25 over list price, or do you think we need to go 40 over list price, right?
exactly.
And next thing you know, you've just lost super amounts of money because you're talking strategy in somebody else's home and they're listening and or watching you.
Exactly.
What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you look like a basketball coach, right? Basketball coaches are like, all right, we're gonna pass to the left here, right?
Yeah, it's a great tool for sellers, but it's a great protection for buyers to caution them when you're working with buyers. And I've worked with buyers who are very free with not nice comments as well.
Right.
It's you know, the feedback that we give sellers, we want to be constructive and something they can actually do.
Yep. Okay. One thing that I want to make sure that we close with is I'll summarize two important points. You have to say these two things as quickly as you possibly can. Okay. You have to say, just so you know, any property that you happen to find, any way you happen to find it, whether you pop into a new construction or you see a for sale by owner or you're looking at homes on the web, any property that you have a question about or an interest in, I want you to call me first. Okay. And I can help gather that information for you and I can help you get inside. If you happen to call the person whose name is on the sign, that person has been hired to protect the seller. Okay. If you click on links online, you're going to get clobbered with other real estate agents trying to get your business. And I don't want you to have to go through that. It's a bit annoying. So I'll be the one to get all those messages. Just send me the address, text it, WhatsApp it, call me, email me, whatever, and I'll gather that information for you. And just so you know, there is no cost to working with me as a buyer's agent. I'm ultimately compensated by the owner of the property that you pursue. So there's two important factors there. Number one is you don't have to pay, right? Somebody else is going to pay. And secondly, the other super important factor there is that because it doesn't particularly matter to me, Michael, if you buy the first house I show you or the 17th house I show you, I can be much more of a consultant when we're working together rather than a salesperson, right? So I don't have to be like, hey, Michael, look at this open floor plan here. Isn't this the best dishwasher in Roswell? Don't you want to throw the ball in this backyard? Look, if you don't like it, I don't like it. Let's get back in the car, right? So you can, and people like to hear that. They don't want to be sold. They want to be helped, right? So most of the time when I'm walking people through homes, I'm pointing out the bad stuff. Hey, that's wood rot.
Mhm.
Hey, this synthetic stucco. Hey, do you feel the floor, how it's uneven here? Right? Hey, look at all this rotten wood, that rotten wood on the deck. That's gonna be $10,000 to fix. Do you still want to buy this home? You see what I'm saying? They probably feel like I'm talking them out of the home most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want them to feel like I'm pushing them into buying something. I want them to say this house is ideal for me and I understand the warts and I'm ready to move forward. Does that make sense?
And I just want to say, it's so tempting to want to give our opinion, but our opinion might not match their opinion. So you're going to say this outside, but if they, if you're like, oh my God, that was the ugliest fireplace I ever saw. And they're like, I love that fireplace.
Yeah.
Be careful. Be careful. They're the ones that are going to be buying the home and living in it, and their tastes might not be our tastes. So it's really important just to question them about what they like, didn't like, and not really give our opinion about something. But we can do what Bill just said, and that's like, did you notice that might be a repair? Or did you notice that might be something that causes the appraisal to be like synthetic stucco typically appraises lower than hard coat stucco. So did you notice that? But then just asking them questions about their opinions rather than saying, boy, that deck was really steep and there were no stairs,
That I'm so glad you said that. That's so important, guys. So important. Like, God, did you see that wallpaper? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly like the wallpaper my grandmother had in the house that I grew up in. And then you wonder why they ghost you. All right, y'all, have an awesome weekend. Let's make the last couple of days of June and the last couple of days of the second quarter big impact. There are people in your community today that are prepared to make poor real estate decisions unless you find them. Okay, they need your help. All right, keep up the good work, everyone.
you guys rock. Thanks, Bill.